Welcome to The Eye Opener. I'm your host, Michael Lewis. On December 16th, a winter storm called Gale affected at least 40 to 70 million people in the U.S. It was expected to last from the afternoon of the 16th into the 17th. The worst affected cities including Washington, D.C., Philadelphia, New York, and Boston. This winter storm can be used as a metaphor for the current political and social situation in the United States. The election controversy remains the most important issue, and President Trump has no intention of conceding. While Biden and the forces behind him are hard-headed, both sides are bound by a constitutional date. That is January 20th at noon. That is when the U.S. presidential transition or handover between the terms must take place. After January 20th, it will be a new presidential term. This is required by the Constitution. In other words, President Trump must make something happen before January 20th to ensure the continuation of the President Trump administration. Will President Trump sit back and wait for his demise under the efforts of corrupt forces? Based on President Trump's character and past experience, I would say definitely not. The first reason is that there is no path of retreat for President Trump. Ever since his successful campaign to become the President of the United States in 2016, he is destined to have no way back. He is leading the people and forcing his way into the inner circle of power under the watchful eyes of predators in the Washington swamp. In 4 years, the corrupt forces that have been operating for at least a few decades in the past were torn apart by President Trump. He is loathed by the leftists when in office. But what will happen if he leaves? I believe President Trump is not fighting for himself. The most important is that once he leaves office, the corrupt forces will be back in power. They will desperately try to pull American society to the left and increase government power to increase their control over the people. Whether it's from a personal, family, or societal perspective, there's no turning back for President Trump. Supporting President Trump is not only to help him, but is in fact to help you, to help yourselves and future generations. There is another reason President Trump's success is not accidental. From running his family business to becoming a reality show TV star to running for presidency in the United States in his later years, you can go through his entire life and find that there is not a single event based on luck. Behind the scenes, President Trump went through rigorous planning and meticulous preparation. Many of the things he said has come true. He is like a seer and a general who constantly wins battles. As such, we should have confidence in him. But of course, everyone should not take things lightly. President Trump and his supporters are facing powerful and corrupt organizations on a global scale. Because of what we just discussed, President Trump will not just yell out slogans and refuse to acknowledge the results. He will probably be prepared to do all sorts of things. The most effective one is President Trump's presidential prerogative. This has been mentioned a lot recently. Today we will start with this point. Those who watch our program know that on December 13th, a division of the U.S. Department of Homeland Security warned all federal agencies, including the military and political establishments, to disconnect from SolarWinds network. The foreign hackers were exploiting the vulnerabilities in the system to hack into the U.S. government agencies. If it happened only once, it would be not a big deal. But if there is another similar-looking system shutdown notification being issued within a short period of time, it will make people wonder, what's going on? U.S. media outlet Just the News cited 3 sources saying that on December 15th, the Pentagon issued an emergency notice warning employees that the communication network used for classified information within the Department of Defense would be urgently shut down for several hours that morning, claiming it was for software updates. But according to reports, until then, the internal classified network of the Department of Defense has never been shut down during the day in an emergency. Updates were usually done on weekends or late at night for a few hours. Moreover, the emergency shutdown involved only computers that handled confidential information and not other related equipment. The full name of this classified network is Secret Internet Protocol Router Network, which was established in 1990, and the classified matters communicated in it can reach the highest confidential levels. On the morning of December 16th, President Trump held his 25th cabinet meeting at the White House in the absence of some senior officials. Among them are Attorney General William Barr, who will be resigning on December 23rd, and Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, who is in quarantine after CCP virus exposure. Others who didn't attend were Acting Defense Secretary Chris Miller, Energy Secretary Dan Brouillette, Treasury Secretary Steven Mnuchin, Director of National Intelligence John Ratcliffe, CIA Director Gina Haspel, and Agriculture Secretary Sonny Perdue. According to the Washington Times, this cabinet meeting was special. In the past, President Trump would allow some reporters to enter the room and stay for 30 minutes or longer. They were permitted to film the meeting and even had the opportunity to ask questions. But at the cabinet meeting, President Trump did not invite reporters to enter the meeting room. As of the time of our preparation for today's program, the meeting details remained a secret. If they do release the meeting content, I don't think it would be very detailed or complete. The most interesting thing is that Secretary of State Pompeo, Secretary of Defense Miller, and Director of National Intelligence Ratcliffe, the current and to-be Attorney Generals, were not present. These departments are the core of the cabinet and are very supportive of President Trump. Back in June 18, 2014, President Trump set out a tweet of a famous quote from U.S. General Patton, "May God have mercy upon my enemies, because I won't." Because Trump does not always announce his plans to the public in advance, however, the public is now calling for President Trump to take action. The Epoch Times has issued an editorial calling on Trump to exercise his presidential power, collecting and releasing evidence on the election controversy, arresting traitors, and restoring the rule of law. Now, more and more Americans are calling on President Trump to exercise such powers and to not waste time under this disappointing and corrupt legal system. In November, the militia groups in the U.S. and conservative organization We the People Convention appealed to the President of the United States to use his presidential powers to help restore the country, following the example of former President Abraham Lincoln. On December 14th, Senator Amanda Chase, the Republican governor candidate of Virginia, publicly called on President Trump to declare limited martial law, as they will not accept the current outcome of the election. On December 15th, Lynn Wood cited an Epoch Times article editorial. At the critical time, President Trump should take action. He stated he was 100% confident that President will take action and said Trump is a genius. He has a plan. Chinese-American economic sociologist Qinglian He also called on President Trump to follow the executive order signed in 2018 sanctioning foreign interference in the election, correct the past mistakes in the U.S., not deal with the back-and-forth methods of this corrupt system, and ensure we don't miss this opportunity. The Trump Page, a Twitter account that supports President Trump since 2016, tweeted on the evening of December 15th, stating, "Trump will enact the executive order from 2018 in January. There will be a surprise attack from Trump. Pieces are put into place. The eagle has landed. Trump is making his move sooner than January, but the month of January will bring the House down." He also stated in another tweet, "They know this. They are preparing for it." Do they know exactly what Trump is going to do? No, they don't. But they are shutting everything down and preparing for it the month of January. This is a very crucial month. When he says they are shutting everything down, he might be referring to the pandemic as a way to shift the focus, to downplay the current issues, and to draw public attention away from President Trump's actions. Various people also retweeted views from retired U.S. Army Colonel Perez. He thinks President Trump will most likely take action between December 18th and 24th. He also said if President Trump activates the 2018 executive order, it could freeze the assets and bank accounts of those involved in foreign intervention of the election, including Facebook, Twitter, fake news media, and Chinese forces in the U.S. The Army will also guard the country's borders against foreign invasions, including land, sea, and air. This sort of action might be seen in a movie or novels, but this is the reality the American people are currently discussing. Trump also sent out a tweet warning on December 13th stating, "Swing states that have found massive voter which is all of them, cannot legally certify these votes as complete and correct without committing severely punishable crimes." Currently, President Trump has explicitly and publicly proposed a criminal investigation of the Biden family. The Associated Press reported that Trump is considering allowing the new acting Attorney General, Jeffrey Rosen, to appoint a special counsel to investigate Hunter Biden's tax problems and business dealings with foreign countries. The report also mentioned that President Trump also intends to let the new acting Attorney General appoint another special counsel to investigate the election dispute. We should not underestimate Trump's new head of the Department of Justice. As we have shared with you our previous programs, Jeffrey Rosen is well versed in the Chinese Communist Party's infiltration of the United States. In a public speech in August this year, he supported the Executive Order 13848 signed by President Trump in 2018. He agreed with President Trump that the digital devices and internet communications have become a loophole for foreign interference in the U.S. election. The SolarWinds network is widely used by the U.S. government. It has received public attention because of its vulnerability against foreign hackers to enter the United States agencies. According to the report, SolarWinds products are likely used by the Dominion voting system that leave a backdoor for voting machines to be accessed by outsiders. Richard Donoghue, the acting Deputy Attorney General appointed by President Trump almost the same time as Rosen, has an even more impressive background. His father was former President John F. Kennedy's personal attorney, and he himself has a strong background, having served as military magistrate judge in the U.S. Army. Since January 2018, he has worked as a prosecutor in the United States District Court for the Eastern District of New York and has experience on a number of major cases, including fighting the MS-13 gang, prosecuting key members involved in sex trafficking and forced labor, successfully prosecuting Guzman, the infamous Mexican drug lord. Donoghue also was one of the key prosecutors who oversaw Huawei's Meng Wanzhou case. Rosen and Donoghue, a tough duo at the Justice Department, will officially take up their positions on December 23rd, but their experience alone is enough to keep some of the evil forces awake at night. According to the Associated Press, President Trump wants them to appoint 2 special prosecutors to investigate the election and investigate Hunter Biden. Putting the election controversies aside, if they really take action or deploy a similar operation, the Biden family would seriously be in deep trouble. Now, new evidence of Hunter Biden's scandal has surfaced. This time it directly involves the entire Biden family. The latest news is a 2017 email from Hunter Biden to Yi Jianming, the former president of CEFC, China Energy, in which Hunter Biden expresses best wishes from the entire Biden family to Yi and urges him to pay him $10 million as soon as possible under the name of operating funds for the Biden family's project with Yi. This is concrete evidence of the Biden's family collective dealings with the Chinese Communist Party. It would be a great tragedy and ridiculous and absurd tragedy for the U.S. justice system if the Biden family remained unaffected despite such evidence. On December 12th, one of America's religious leaders, Pastor Brian Gibson, told the Epoch Times at the rally in Washington, D.C., that it's a pivotal moment. It's good versus evil, and it's not Republican versus Democrat. It's American versus communist. On December 15th, 17 House Republicans sent a letter to House Speaker Pelosi urging her to immediately remove Democratic Representative Eric Swalwell of California from the Intelligence Committee following reports about his former ties with an alleged Chinese spy. If you pay attention, you will see many American netizens talking about this on social media. This popular opinion in America, at least among the millions of people who voted for Trump. Many congressional Republicans have not given up the election issue either. Republican Representative Mo Brooks said Tuesday he will object when Congress convenes January 6 to count certifications of electoral votes. He's asking more House members to join him in refusing to certify the results sent to Congress by the states. By then, the chair of this joint meeting will be Vice President Pence. The Stop the Steal coalition leaders also held a press conference on the Capitol Hill Club on December 15th. They called on more Republicans to challenge the results of the presidential election on January 6th, particularly to reject the results in several key states. The coalition said that 7 members of the House in the Republican caucus are willing to stand with Mo Brooks so far. The governor of Florida, Ron DeSantis, also declined to publicly acknowledge Joe Biden as the president-elect when asked by reporters on Tuesday, December 15th, after the state cabinet meeting. As many of you have said, what the U.S. election has revealed can no longer be distinguished by party affiliations or categorized by left or right wing. It is now about good and evil. The past classification of Republican versus Democrat, conservative versus liberal, is not accurate anymore. Some so-called conservatives are also corrupted. Some Republicans are actually blue in disguise or do not have a strong stance with the party's position. On December 15th, the top Republican official in Congress, Senator Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, announced his recognition of Biden as president-elect In a subsequent conference call, he urged congressional Republicans not to object to the election results when Congress convenes on January 6 to count the electoral votes. His actions were widely criticized by Trump supporters. His families and his ties to the Chinese Communist Party have been dug up again as well. There are new reports saying that McConnell received thousands of dollars in political contributions in the first half of 2019. Those were all from political lobbyists associated with the Dominion voting system. In July of the same year, McConnell blocked 2 bills in Congress that would have preserved the integrity of the election. One was to provide $775 million to enhance U.S. election securities and required that any U.S. vote have to be based on paper ballot. And the other one was to make it mandatory for political candidates, their members, and their families to notify the FBI if a foreign government provided assistance. While McConnell was caught in a whirlwind storm of public accusations, President Trump also responded to the announcement. President Trump retweeted an article in the early hours of December 16th titled, "Trump's Allies Slam Mitch McConnell for Congratulating Biden." In the quote of the retweet, President Trump commented, "Too soon to give up. Republican Party must finally learn to fight. People are angry." In the meantime, more behind-the-scenes election controversies continues to surface. At noon on December 16th, the Thomas More Society held a press conference and released groundbreaking report exposing a dark money apparatus of 10 nonprofit organizations funded by 5 foundations whose intent was to fundamentally undermine the electoral system. This injection of hundreds of millions of dollars into the election, 500 million of which came from the Facebook founder, Mark Zuckerberg, violated state election laws and resulted in an unequal distribution of funding that deprived voters of both due process and equal protection, and more importantly, affected the outcome of the election. Mark Serrano, president of a U.S. company called Proactive Communications, also said on the morning of December 16th that he would file a lawsuit against Facebook's CEO, Mark Zuckerberg, in the District Court of Columbia for the influence of his fundings on the election outcome in Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, Michigan, Arizona, and Georgia. At the same time, the Senate Committee on the Homeland Security and Governmental Affairs held an oversight hearing to examine irregularities in the election on December 16th, which seemed to have turned into a heated exchange between Republican legislators and witnesses, as well as Democratic lawmakers and opposers, rather than a hearing between legislators and witnesses. During the hearing, Senator Rand Paul emphasized that many controversies occurred and this election had serious problems in many aspects, stating the happened, the election in many ways was stolen. Republican Senator Ron Johnson, who chaired the meeting, had a heated debate with Democratic colleagues on the committee, and Johnson correctly pointed out the controversial issues in the election. While the election disputes are still being settled, the Chinese Communist Party continues to carry out its own agenda. On December 15th, The Guardian reported that the Chinese Communist Party was using mobile phone networks in the Caribbean to send signaling messages that could locate cell phone users and to target, track, and intercept phone communications of U.S. phone subscribers, as well as to monitor specific groups of people in the United States. Most of the signaling messages found came from China Unicom, so it is suspected that the Chinese Communist Party is behind the espionage activities. That's it for today, my friends. Make sure to like and share, and if you haven't yet, please subscribe. And just in case YouTube shuts me down, make sure to give me your best email so that we can continue our friendship into the future. And I will see you next time.